Each one of you has a story. And now I suspect we're going to hear another one. You've read all about Sarah Fay in the program. And so I just want you to realize that you're about to hear from one of Advertising Age's 25 women to watch. Media Post Top 100 Media Influentials. Someone who was recently named a future legend. Sarah, that's a lot to live up to. So I simply want to say, welcome. You have done so much in a career that has been so exciting and I know is still unfolding. And we are all terribly pleased and honored that someone of your experience is here to inspire us and our graduates. Welcome, Sarah Fay.
Those were already some wonderful, inspirational stories. Good morning, everyone. Good morning. And good morning to Marlboro's graduating class of the 2009 Business School. I'd like to thank Peter Crowell and faculty for having me here today. You know, it's really a big honor for me to be here, and I think it's always a big honor to speak at any commencement day because it's the culmination of a lot of work. It's, you know, it's a hard-earned achievement. And I know this is a special group of people who thought long and hard about furthering their education. And that it wasn't a small decision and it involved a lot of sacrifice. So hats off to you and congratulations to all of you. I feel my role is meant to give some guidance toward your path to success. So I was pleased to be asked for my words of wisdom because frankly I like to give advice. And if I can play some small role in helping shape your career going forward, then I'll benefit from the karma that brings back to me. Don't laugh, I'm a big believer in karma. And I believe it's had a lot to do with my own personal success. So I'll talk about the human element in our careers in the business world in a bit. I learned that last year's speaker was David Weinberger. And it was actually a little intimidating for me because, you know, he's one of the most important and prolific philosophers of the digital space and someone who I greatly admire. He wrote the Clue Train Manifesto and Everything is Miscellaneous and things that have really shaped my perspective. He's a big thinker and I'm sure he had profound things to say. I am probably more of a worker in the field. You can think of me as someone who's kind of been out there rolling up my sleeves, and I think I will probably be a bit more pragmatic than David. I have eaten, slept, and breathed the issues that brands and companies have faced in the digital space. I've fought for and evangelized the digital medium as a viable platform for branding and promotions. I've wrestled with the puzzle of how individual companies should use digital as a means for transforming their businesses, and I've advocated for consumers and their right to their own personal spaces without being overwhelmed by marketers. The industry has moved light years beyond where it was more than a decade ago, but it continues to come at us rapid fire. I've always been amazed at how many things I can learn in a week. And I've often wished that things would slow down just so I could digest the information I've been receiving. It would be nice to think you've attained enough knowledge to just go practice and perfect your craft, but it's not like that. I've resented setting up countless meetings, wishing I hadn't signed my time away. People waiting in the lobby and thinking, did I say I'd meet with them? And by the middle of the meeting, they'd have blown my mind with some new concept, some new business model, some form of innovation. So, you know, living in the digital space is like drinking from the fire hose every day. Now, there's a video on YouTube called Did You Know? And it's full of some amazing statistics. I'm going to read it to you, but I would recommend that you go to YouTube after this and look at it for yourself because it's kind of presented in a more dynamic form. But I'm going to share with you some of these statistics that I think denote the fast-changing world we're living in, and then I'm going to talk about what I think it all means. Okay, if you're 1 in a million in China, that means there are 1,300 other people just like you. China will be soon the #1 English-speaking country in the world. The 25% of India's population with the highest IQ is greater than the total population of the US. Translation, India has more honors kids than America has kids. The top 10 in-demand jobs in 2010 did not exist in 2004. We are currently preparing students for jobs that don't yet exist, using technologies that haven't been invented, or in order to solve problems we don't even know are problems yet. The US Department of Labor estimates that today's learner will have 10 to 14 jobs before the age of 38. 1 in 4 workers has been with their current jobs for less than 1 year. 1 in 2 has been there less than 5 years. 1 out of 8 couples married in the US last year met online. There are more than 200 million registered users on MySpace. If MySpace were a country, it would be the 5th largest in the world, in between Brazil and Indonesia. The #1 ranked country in broadband internet penetration is Bermuda. The US is #19, and Japan is #22nd. We are living in exponential times. There are 31 billion searches on Google every month. In 2006, this number was 2.7 billion. Where did these questions get asked, e.g., before Google? The first commercial text message was sent in December 1992. Today, the number of text messages sent every day exceeds the total population of the planet. The years it took to reach a market audience of 50 million in radio was 38. In TV, it took 13 years to reach a market of 50 million. The internet, 4 years. iPod, 3 years. Facebook, 2 years. The number of internet devices in 1984 was 1,000. In 1992, it was 1 million. In 2008, it was 1 billion. There are about 540,000 words in the English language. That's about 5 times as many as in the days of Shakespeare. It's estimated that a week's worth of information in the New York Times contains more information than a person was likely to come across in a lifetime during the 18th century. It's estimated that 4 exabytes of unique information will be generated this year. That's more than in the previous 5,000 years. The amount of new technical information is doubling every 2 years. For students starting a 4-year degree, that means half of what they learn in their first year will be outdated by their 3rd year of study. By 2013, a supercomputer will be built that exceeds the computational capabilities of the human brain. And the predictions are that by 2049, a $1,000 computer will exceed the computational capability of the entire human species. Is anybody worried? And during the course of the time that it took me to tell you that, 67 babies were born in the US, 274 babies were born in China, 395 babies were born in India, and 694,000 songs were downloaded illegally. So what does it all mean? I mean, if you listen to that, you might believe the philosopher Noam Chomsky predicts that the US will become a 3rd world country. But the good news is we'll all still be speaking English. Seriously though, what this monumental change says to me is one thing: stay ready for anything. Success today depends not so much on what you already know, but more on what you're willing to learn. There's no place for settling into the ways of doing things. You're all graduated today, but you should never stop being a student. We all need to be students of our own companies, our own industry, our clients' companies. We are all drinking from the fire hose, and I'm afraid that will continue for a long time. Let's face it, you'll be busy just dealing with your daily deliverables. We don't get quiet days often in the business world. do we? And then on top of that, we need to stay current, we need to stay open-minded to new solutions. What will you say when first-time callers want to come in for a meeting? You don't have time? My favorite New Yorker cartoon, I've always, for years I had it on my bulletin board. It's a man on the phone looking at his calendar saying, "No, Thursday's no good. How about never? Is never good for you?" We all want to say that sometimes. But in reality, you need these meetings. You need to incorporate the information coming into you from the outside world. Think about the companies that weren't here just a few years ago. YouTube, Facebook, Hulu, just to name a few in the advertising space, and countless technologies. You need to hear about the changing business models and opportunities for your companies and the customers you serve. At my former company, we always said that if someone wants to meet with you, there must be a reason you need to meet with them. And it is in your best interest to make the time, whether that needs to be 2 weeks out because you're busy right now, or even a month out, or in the fringes of the day. You need to constantly be on the prowl for new ways to innovate, because if you don't try new things, the world will move past you. The other thing that those statistics said to me is we're living in a global economy. And I came from a global company. I saw this very much with the corporations out there getting their acts together in a global way. I read a statistic, too, recently that said 25% of students today expect to live in another country at some point. I would never have fathomed that when I was graduating. But increasingly, companies are looking for global digital strategies, and they're creating global teams that include people from inside and outside their company. This requires an open mindset. We Americans tend to apply a very American perspective to everything. I could cite 1,001 examples of how cultural differences can screw things up when global teams don't work extra hard on communicating. If you have the opportunity to work on an international team, remember it's so important to